Hi, I'm Dave Renner, Director of State and Federal Legislation with the Minnesota Medical Association.
And I'm Eric Zick, the Manager of State Legislative Affairs for the MMA. Each year, thousands of bills are introduced at the Capitol for consideration before lawmakers, and the MMA team reviews each and every one to determine their impact on physicians, clinics, and patients.
It's important that you have a chance to be engaged in this process as well, as you have a chance to talk with your legislators to explain the impact of these bills.
That's absolutely right, Dave. Legislators are interested in hearing how each of these proposals impacts your profession and your practice and your patients.
We realize for many of you this is not something that comes naturally, so this video is intended to provide some tips for you on how to and how not to talk to your legislators.
Right now, we're going to introduce two of our members who have kindly agreed to lend a hand to demonstrate the appropriate way to talk to a legislator and less than appropriate way to do so. Up first is Will Nicholson, a family physician from Maplewood, who is going to demonstrate how not to talk to a legislator.
Congressman Will Nicholson, nice to meet you. How are you doing today?
It's good to meet you, Doctor. Actually, I'm a state senator. I represent you in the state senate.
Oh, okay. Well, you're one of those, decision-making guys for our state. And I'm here with the MMA. They asked me to give you this paper. I'm a family doctor, and I work at the University of Minnesota, and we need more funding for MERC. And if you don't know what that is, it's medical education for training doctors. As you know, becoming a doctor takes a long time. It takes a lot of school, and it costs a lot of money, and we need more money.
Well, thank you, Doctor, for sharing that. I don't sit on the health committee, so I'm wondering if maybe you might walk me through this document and what you're seeking this year at the state senate.
Sure. Well, it's pretty straightforward. I'm a professor, and I train future physicians, and if we don't do this kind of thing, and get more money, I won't be able to keep being in your district. I'll have to move to somewhere cheaper and less affluent, and I won't be able to make donations to your campaign anymore.
Well, thank you, Doctor, for sharing that. We leave the campaign stuff out of the Capitol. We like to talk about the issues before us. The campaign work will come when it comes. But again, help me understand how this impacts Minnesotans. How does this impact our neighbors?
Well, I think the main thing is just that now that we have Obamacare, you got to fix that too. But we need a lot more family doctors, and so we got to train them. And this is, I think you gotta read it, because it takes a long time to figure out some of this stuff. And I'm just trying to give you some advice on how to help Minnesota be healthier, going in the future.
Well, I certainly appreciate you coming in, Doctor, and taking the time. It looks like you got...
Yeah, I got to run. I got a bunch of other elected officials that I need to talk to for the MMA.
Okay.
So it was nice to meet you, and I'll see you at your next fundraiser, okay? Take care.
Thank you, Doctor. A hearty thanks to Dr. Nicholson for showing us what not to do when we talk to legislators. As you saw in that clip, Dr. Nicholson was frankly rude. He was unprepared. He looked at his watch in the middle of the meeting. He didn't even button his tie. And he also called me congressman when, in fact, I was playing the role of a state senator. In our next clip, Dr. Lisa Matson from Boynton Health Services will interact with Dave Renner, who is playing the role of a state representative.
Hello?
Hi, Representative. My name is Dr. Lisa Matson. I'm an OBGYN, and I live in your district.
Doctor, welcome. Glad you came in. What can I do for you?
Thanks for taking time to see me. I know you have a very busy schedule, but I'd really like to talk to you about some medical issues we have here in the state of Minnesota, particularly some of the problems with medical funding. Mm-hmm. Are you aware of MERC?
I am aware of MERC. Yes, that gets discussed here.
Well, we really are looking for some improvement in MERC funding so that we have adequate funding for education for our medical students, and that we can provide better medical care for underserved populations and people in some of the rural areas of Minnesota. I'm an OBGYN in the state, and right now we are seeing that there are fewer OBGYNs going into rural areas because of funding issues and reimbursement issues. And we really need to change that. There are some women who are having to drive hundreds of miles just to have a baby delivered.
Wow.
We also have many family practice doctors who are not going into those areas, and I think with changes in healthcare right now, there's more of an emphasis on preventive medicine, and therefore we really do need to improve our primary care workforce and not just our specialty care.
Sure.
Right now, the average medical student is graduating with more than $200,000 worth of debt, which
Wow.
makes it very difficult for many of them to consider a primary care specialty. They're going to be able to pay back their loans better if they go into specialty care. And it'd be nice to have some improvement in loan forgiveness so that we can encourage more young physicians to go into these primary care areas.
You know, Doctor, you make good points. A lot of my colleagues around here are worried about spending too much. How do you respond to them when they say, why should we be spending on medical education as opposed to some other areas of the state budget?
Well, I think many of us would argue that if we have a healthy population, everybody's going to do better in general. And it's much more cost effective to work at prevention than it is to treat disease after it's happened. So if we can get out to underserved populations and lower socioeconomic populations and keep them healthy with primary care and preventive care, I think that everybody benefits from that.
Again, I appreciate your point of view. This is not an area of expertise of mine. If you've got information I could use.
Well, I actually do have a handout here that's been prepared for you from the Minnesota Medical Association.
Good, thank you.
So I'd encourage you to read through this. I also have my card, and I would certainly be available to you and for any questions you have. So please consider me a resource. I know that this can be very complicated, and for laymen, sometimes these medical problems are just confusing. But I certainly would be happy to answer questions or find other people who might be able to answer your questions as things come up.
Well, I appreciate that because I will admit I am not an expert in medical issues, so any resource I can use, I may be calling on you. So thank you very much.
Please feel free to do that. I really appreciate your time. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you very much. Thanks for coming in.
I know.
Again, thanks for Dr. Matson for her role in this video. You can see she approached this meeting in a much more respectful manner. She referred to me as with my appropriate title, representative. She did a good job of explaining the issue in relatively basic terms that a legislator could understand, and explaining it in such a way that it's not just how is this good for physicians, but how is this good for patients. And most importantly, she offered to be a resource to this legislator. She shared her business card, her contact information. She shared the one-page talking points with the legislator and offered in the future to be a resource if that legislator had any further questions on this or other issues. We don't expect you to become experts based on watching these few scenarios, but do remember, the more you do it, the easier it becomes. Legislators want to hear from you. You are the experts. They want to hear how the legislation that they're considering has an impact on your practice and the patients you serve.